Welcome to Feminine Power Time. Turn off the chatter and tune in to what matters. This is where we reimagine the way we and the world work from the inside out by marrying personal leadership, well-being, and wisdom. I am Christina Rilo, your host, and I want to welcome you to the series that we've been exploring that's all about breaking through patterns. OMG, one of the most powerful skills, gifts, awarenesses, superpowers that if you know how to do it, it's not a panacea for going through these intense times, but it will give you a path and a practice, and it's a way to stay centered and calm and on focus and really able to dance through these times. So this is our third in the series. We started with really looking at how to reveal and illuminate the patterns. Then I gave you 3 practices for actually breaking through the patterns and how to play with those. And today we're going to dive into the piece that's really important to understand, which is the collective patterns that we're breaking through. So one of the things that is essential to understand is that there's both a me and a we happening here. There's a me, which is we all have our own internal patterns that were imprinted, depending on, what you want to say, imprinted, in utero, imprinted during our crazy life on this planet, imprinted from lots of different places and spaces. And it becomes our curriculum to really take those patterns and shift them and elevate them out of the deeper, denser fear frequency and shame frequency and blame frequency and greed frequency, all of that shadowy, denser stuff that keeps us working inside of realities and creating a culture and systems and all of that just continues to operate in a way that can never really serve humans and the planet for true prosperity and sustainability. It's kind of what we're all doing here at a me level. And it also reminds us of our own wholeness, right? You and I were born whole. We are not broken. There's nothing to fix. But there are things to heal because we did land on this banana planet. And hopefully, as we heal all the parts within ourselves, as we parent, as we mentor, as we create businesses, as we create realities, we make choices. We stop creating from the wound and we remember how to create from wholeness. And that is how over time we change a culture. That is how over time we actually see more and more of the world I think we all believe is possible, and less of the old bastions that want to hold on and keep people trapped in what I like to call the powerarchy. Some people call it the patriarchy, but Noah and I, he's kind of offended about patriarchy because he's like, a true patriarch would not do what is currently happening in this world. And I kind of agree with him. So that's why we really wanted to name what it is. We'll talk a little bit about this today, which is the powerarchy. There are these bigger collective things that are going on that are also the we part, that you and I cannot, it's like the saying of be in the world, but not of the world. So this is kind of part of how that works, is that we can't completely separate ourselves from these collective patterns, nor do we want to. I mean, then we might, even the people who are like, the monks and the yogis who spend their, lives chanting and meditating, they're doing it in many ways for the collective good. And so if you can know and see these bigger patterns that are happening, that are the collective we patterns that you and I are part of, but we don't have to be run by, we don't have to be sideswiped by, we don't have to let them infiltrate the core of our being, or what in the Buddhist tradition they call your diamond heart. So if you think about your heart, right, when we talk about this, how we're born with our hearts 100% pure love, pure love. And then we, meet people who've been here longer, or we have situations where we feel unsafe, and that's where those love cracks happen. Fear comes in, your inner mean girl, your inner, all the imprints, all the complexes, all that stuff starts to take root, and then that pure heart gets full of lots of the denser, heavier frequencies that we then spend our time healing from. And where we're at right now is we're experiencing this collective shift of the way that the world has been working no longer works. It's like you don't have to be a rocket scientist or a biologist to look around and be like, oh, wow, all the systems not working, Mother Earth gonna flip us all off the planet if, humans don't kind of wake up and get this. So, what we practice here at Feminine Power Time is we embrace that we are the culture co-creators. We embrace that we have the capacity to influence what culture is and what the world is through our voices and our choices, what we and who we are in our own presence, and how we affect our sphere of influence. Not having to do all of the things, not trying to be saviors, but really looking at what is my part to play. And so here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to share just some of the some names of the common patterns that are showing up so you can kind of start to see them, right, in a way that you could be, there that is. It's what Christine was talking about. There are these bigger patterns that are these we patterns that are happening. Okay, great. Know that. Then secondly, I'm going to share with you three patterns that I'm seeing that are actually they're not antidotes, but they're kind of antidotes. They're the how we can dance through this time. Right now, I've been out in the field, so to speak. I've been I just got back from a week in Seattle where I've been doing some deep dive into a tool I've been using for 20 years called the Enneagram, which is one of the best ways to see blind spots and patterns, both in individuals, ourselves, but also in relationships and also in teams. And I've been starting to use it with teams within organizations that I work with and within leaders who I support, and doing it within their team ecosystems, which is so powerful. So I was out there doing that training with 24 other people. So I got to see lots and lots of different patterns going on. And then in my councils, we've been talking a lot about the patterns that we're seeing and how are we navigating, and I like to say dancing through these times. The other thing that we talk a lot about here at Feminine Power Time is cyclical living. And we are in a cycle of a lot of intensity right now as we go into October, November of this year. We've heard me talk about the 20-year cycle that's starting at the end of this year, where Pluto and Aquarius, from an astrology perspective, kind of dance together for 20 years. And so we're seeing a lot of the turbulence in that. And we're also in a bigger pattern that's, kind of kicked off in the late 60s. You've heard of the dawning of the age of Aquarius. So there's a lot of cycles that we're working within. So I wanted to share with you three of the dances, that's what we can call them. Let's have some fun and lighten up, right, you all? Because this is kind of heavy stuff. So I'm going to share three of the dances that you can do specifically, and that I'm doing, and all of the amazing, wise humans that I'm working with are practicing and dancing through. And so I'll share those with you, and then we'll end up with 2 inquiries to take with you to end up this series. How does that sound? Okay. And as we dive into this, I just want to take a short moment here to pause and let you all know that we are approaching the middle year point. And the mid-year point, is always the time that I love doing power pauses, times to reset and refocus and realign for the second half of the year. So I just wanted to let you all know we will be running the Flow Power Pause again. I think it's the 8th year that you can do virtually from your house, 4 weeks. Starts at summer solstice or June solstice this year. You can find out more about that at flowpowerpause.com. I also do in-person power pauses. I will be in California at Canyon Ranch in Woodside this year, doing a power pause there on Friday, May 31st. And so check that out. You can go to my website and see more about that in the events section, or go to Canyon Ranch Woodside. Love to see you all. And then I'll be doing team power pauses, and for organizations and teams, usually we do those in July. So if any of you run organizations or have teams or groups, I am happy to come in and do that. And you can just always reach out to me at christine@arilo.com. Okay, because we want to make sure that that's kind of where we're landing. And I'll be here with you all on the podcast. We always do a podcast episode that is about the mid-year power pause as well. So we'll do a shorty for you all. Okay, you all, let's just take a breath in and out and just land here now in this place, in this time, in this space. and really feeling what I said. There's this me and there's this we. And you are an individual, sovereign, beautiful being who is deeply connected to yourself, your soul, your spirit, your body, your mind, and whatever that bigger force is that kind of helps you navigate through this world. And you're in this world, right? You're in the world itself. And there are many different realities, we often like to say. And there's like all these realities, but we're all here on the planet Earth. So there is a we that's happening as well. And I want to just name some of the collective patterns that are playing out right now. And you can write these down or kind of chew on them, start to kind of notice them out in the world. So number one is polarity. So what we're seeing right now in many ways is the pattern of this or that, black or white, what's called duality, reality. And if you think about it as a line, we've talked about this a lot at Feminine Power Time. If you put your two fingers out, right, left finger, right finger, index fingers, and you just move it back or forth, work, life, black, white, rich, poor, good, bad, have nots, profit, non-for-profit. We live in a system that is full of duality. And that duality, what's happening, if you put your fingers out in front of you and you start to move them out and just keep moving them away from each other, they're like poles that are pulling on each other, like this extreme tension in America, Republican, Democrat, and it's just pulling, and I'm doing this right now, try this, it's very somatic. It's like so far away. It's like one of those workout rubber bands, that you pull. It's stretched out so thin. This is like and the tension is so thick. It's what we're seeing in so many of the different systems that we work in right now. And what has to happen is that rubber band hopefully doesn't break. Maybe, I'm not exactly sure. Does it break? Does it disintegrate? But it has to be able to release and elevate into a third point. So if you think of a symbol, circle, triangle, bottom of the triangle, duality, reality. If we want to elevate out of this, we have to be able to be with things that look like they're polar opposites from a place of paradox versus polarity. So that means, like, instead of giving and receiving is another example. You're either giving or you're receiving. Actually, you need to be able to be with both. Or think of anything that's controversial, like anti-abortion, pro-abortion. I don't ever say pro-life and pro-choice because there's not a human on the planet who's not for pro-choice and pro-life. That is powerarchy doing really good branding. Regardless of what your personal beliefs are, you're 100% allowed to have those beliefs. But in a society that truly has both sovereignty and unity, we don't put our beliefs upon other individuals in that way. And so this piece around anti-abortion and pro-abortion is that it's like it creates such tension and anger and people just, going at each other and all this vileness coming up. But we need to be able to create, if you want to get out of the crazy banana world, we need to create a reality in which both can be possible. That it's a paradox. So paradox means we can be with both without having to choose one side or the other. And when you're in a one side or the other situation, I'm right, they're wrong, it just continues to feed the fear, the greed, the shame, all of the lower shadowy vibrations. So just take a breath on that. And what I want you to start to notice is, where you see those polarities out there, but also where you have them within us. This is why I do so much of the work with the power spectrums and feminine leadership. It's not that the masculine doesn't matter. We've talked a lot about this. It's like we have to understand the feminine and really embrace it. And that whole series that we did about like strategy and surrender, that's could be a polarity. But when you have it as a paradox, it opens you up into a whole different way of working in which you can actually do less, receive more, and achieve a greater impact in the world. So this is not just like esoteric mumbo jumbo. This is like wisdom applying. So I want you to start to see those polarities out there and see them and name them as polarities. And then also see the ones that are inside of yourself. And then like, how can we stand? Like our role is, how do we stand in the paradox of it? How do we stand without having to be this or that? So powerful. We talk about that for a whole podcast series. I'm going to move on. Number 2, the power over dynamic. This is one of the other patterns. Power over also really shows up in what we call the powerarchy. So I don't think you all need a lot of explaining on this, but it's happening all over the place. And what's happening is like, it's just like no longer okay, like hashtag no more. And so we're seeing this breaking apart because it's time for it to break apart. I don't know exactly why humans have to go through what we go through and why we have to evolve the way that we do. But if you think about it in your body, your power center is right at your diaphragm. And that power center is overexpressed right now in the world. There's an imbalance that's not connected to the heart. So the bottom half of the body and the middle part, the heart and the top part, are disconnected because the heart is the connector. So part of the only way that we move out of this powerarchy and this power over is through the heart. We have to go through the heart. You can't just spiritually bypass it or higher thinking. You have to have the heart. But humans are scared. We're scared as of the heart. Like, I don't want to go in there. There's scary stuff in there. That's where all those gremlins and inner mean girls and wounds and all that stuff. But I can tell you, having been on the journey of the heart for 20 years, and myself, even after 20 years, taking a deep dive last year, using a system I love called the Gene Keys and working also very much with the Enneagram for many years. Those two systems especially, I just love for this purpose. It's some of the most rewarding work I've ever done in my life to really reclaim and choose to return to my pure heart as much as possible. And we all have our own paths with that of really receiving love and being loved and feeling worthy. Like, these are deep things in the heart. For those of you who have read Overwhelmed and Over It, you know what I'm talking about, because the third section is called Liberate the Heart. And what I found, you all, when I was doing my research on what keeps us stuck in the patterns that keep us stuck in burnout, overwhelm, self-sacrifice, survival, was at the root, at the deepest root, were the fears and the things and the imprints and the ways of not being supported and feeling alone and loneliness that are deep in the heart. So I want to just presence that, like, you do have power here over the powerarchy and the power over, and think of the heart, right? Center of courage, center of compassion. So as you start to look at these things and these dynamics that you don't like, coming back to your own heart and, really looking this year as like, what can I do to return to even more of my knowingness that I am worthy, that I am whole, that I am powerful, that I do and I've always had love at the center. What can I do to choose love over fear? Basically, as simple as that sounds, but it's been a primary teaching. This is why I love the Enneagram. It does that, even though we don't tell people necessarily that we're doing that all the time. It's what it's doing. And just think about it in your own family, in your own team, in your organization. You can look around at the fear and imagine, what would it be like if people on teams and organizations and families could access that point of love instead of that point of fear. And there's a great wisdom saying that says, when it's something like, when the power shifts from the love of power to the power of love. Is that Jimi Hendrix? I can never remember who said that. So when power, but it's just, I think, true wisdom. When the love of power shifts to the power of love, that's when we elevate. So how can we do more of that in our lives, even in the face of struggle and all of the shenanigans going on? And then the last one is, there's two. I'm just going to name this one: profit versus prosperity. More than we can talk about right now. But if I look at this collective shadows that are playing out, there is an overfocus on profit that creates greed and scarcity. And it's how our system is run. And at the end of the day, if profits aren't being made and profits aren't growing, then we actually, people make decisions that are not in alignment necessarily with the wholeness. Not always, but it's a deep, deep, deep piece in there. And so we need to move out of profit, which is dualistic, into a more holistic looking at prosperity. That's happening in our lives. And so that's more than we're going to talk about today, but I wanted to presence it. And lastly, the fourth one to kind of bring your eyes to is the over self or the under self. So the over self-importance, the over self-reliance, the over self-interest, the over self-absorption. We see that all over the place. Even that's why we did a whole thing on over responsibility, over self-reliance. And then there's the underside too, under self-focus. So I'm self-sacrificing myself. I'm taking care of everyone else's needs. I'm fighting for this bigger purpose, but at the same time, I am not sustained. Or I'm just kind of going along to get along. And so we all have these over self and under self. And it also shows up in the culture where you see, it's like people owning 4 houses and there being people who live on the streets. Now, that's not to say any of you who own 4 houses, that means you're greedy. And any means, I don't mean it. I have lots of friends who own multiple houses. But it is like you have to look at that like, wow, like how do we create a society in which some people have 4 of those things and some people have none of those things? And it's kind of like a koan, or it's kind of like a So this is what I love so much about the Enneagram and Gene Keys and the feminine and cyclical living. It really is a practice of contemplation and reimagination. So what I'm inviting you to do right now is not to have to go out and solve all of this. What I'm inviting you to do with these bigger collective patterns that are playing out, and there are more, but I think these are 4 that are good. Choose one of them even. You don't need to choose all 4. And be like, okay, as I'm watching the things that get you triggered, watching the things that like light off that fear response in your body. Sometimes I can actually feel it, you all. Like I can feel the cortisol like running down my legs, or I can feel the heartbeat of my heart, ramping up. And then, I use my stay harmonizing practices, the butterfly breath, the alternate nostril, all the breathing, all the things that we do proactively and in the moment to calm down. Right? It's not about shutting down those parts. It's about the feels, but don't build up a camp or set up, a raft in the middle of the emotion commotion, but move through it. It's what we're doing right now in Burnout to Balance. And I just love it so much because it breaks apart all of the mental constructs and emotional stuff we do to stuff the holes. Watching Noah right now, like he's doing just doing some stuff to shift with a practitioner around his eating and his diet and his just overall vitality. But he's realizing, like, oh my God, I've been emotionally eating in X, Y, and Z way, and I didn't even realize I was stuffing those holes, with sugar, until I, got support and have a person working with him now, and he's, dedicated to this practice for 3 months as a body reset. And so it's like, again, it's intense, right? It's intense out there, y'all. And we've been saying that for years here. I think that's another thing to just get. This didn't just start because of the pandemic. 2020 was a catalyst. 2012 was a catalyst. We've had multiple catalysts where it's like the universe is almost like humans, hello, giving you a chance here, giving you a chance to elevate into your highest potential. You are a reality creator, so you can do whatever you want. And it is a lot. So what I want to do next is just give you a pause. So just take a pause and be like, oh my gosh, I feel like someone just took beautiful Windex and Windexed off my eyes. And some of these things you're already seeing, already. But doesn't it feel good to know that we're not alone? And you're not the only one out there that sees the things that you do. This is part of why it's so important to gather together. I'm actually sitting within whether or not I usually do, as many of you know, a wisdom quest the second weekend of November every year. Sometimes I do a public one. Sometimes I only do it for the leadership councils that I'm running. And I'm sitting with that for this year. I know I'll do some kind of gathering, and I'm sitting with how to do it. Do I want to have a place? I think because we're all going to need a place here actually in America for sure. But those of you all around the world, it's like gathering together to support whatever this catalyst of that the United States is going through as part of whatever is needing to shift. Where's the place that we're going to land, and doing that in community, but not just waiting till then, making sure we have community and council, like we talked about, that importance of Sangha. All right. So just taking a moment and just think about a person or two that's already in your life that you do have connection to, that you can talk to things openly about. And as we go into these 3 things, these three kind of like the dances of how we can dance through these collective patterns. I want to invite you to invite them into this conversation and to remember these three that I'm going to share with you, and remember the pattern so that you guys can call it out for each other. We really do need these stabilizers. This is why I love doing one-on-one coaching with people who are, running teams, because I can help them stabilize while they are, supporting so many people. And it's why we do Feminine Wisdom Way, so that people have a place to land. We just did our Beltane May 1st ritual, and everyone kind of showed up all gray and tweaked. And by the end, they were smiling and shiny again. So it's why I go to yoga, on Sundays and Thursdays. So to get to shine out myself. So just knowing that, just kind of feel into the individuals that you can do this with, and then share this podcast with them, and then be in conversation and support each other. Deal? Okay. Remember, all you have to do is forward the podcast and say subscribe, and let's do this together. All right, hold on. Let me take a sip out of my savor the moment. And I want to just say, I do want to just extend gratitude for all of you who have over the years given reviews for Feminine Power Time, who have shared this. We are rolling into the ending of our 8th season, and I have some changes coming. I'll tell you more about them later. I'm sitting with my own shifts and how I want to dance through this, but I want to just say thank you so much for those of you that continue to share this and who have posted reviews. You know that I don't play in the land of the kind of common see me marketing circus. And so I do really rely on the power of the connection that you all share. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it deeply from my heart, so I don't have to go play in the circus. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay, I'm gonna say them first, and then we'll go back. Number 1, be here now. These are the dances. You can write these down. Be here now. Number 2, take space to experiment. And number 3, preserve, let go, create the next. Focus on your part, your purpose for the next cycle. Preserve, let go, create the next. Focus on your part and purpose for the next cycle. Okay, so let's start with be here now. These are all pieces of wisdom, dances for how we move through this time. And even if you're listening to this years later, know that they're still going to be relevant, or even months later. So that's part of the beauty of wisdom. But these are the ones that surfaced for us at this time. So be here now. Here's the dealio, you all. As far as I can tell it, most of us can only see about 2 months forward. And I think it's just because change is happening so fast and things are unfolding in all kinds of different ways. And there is, both divine plan and there also is human will. And there's also a part of almost like going through this time is a call to strengthen yourself. Is like we have to kind of go through wobbly times, or times when there's a lot of maybe external crazy or chaos going on, but can you stay centered? Can you stay calm? Can you stay clear? Can you stay rooted? That's you embracing yourself as a leader, whether it's in your family, it's in the grocery line, it's in any community you're in, it's in your team, it's in your organization. Can you have that internal strength? And that doesn't mean that you're superhuman. You get to have to have places where you emote for sure. You have to have people you can talk to work through the fear or the shadow parts that come in. But 80-20, you're able to really stand and be centered. That's what true leadership is. We always say, it's wisdom always says people in challenging times, people show their true leadership colors. And so who do you want to be, during this time? So one core thing that is going to help you dance through this and stay centered is be here now, to be in the present moment. And so what's going to pull you out of that is And these are patterns you do not want to be operating from. So pattern number 1, focusing on the future. Over-focusing on the future is one of the over-giving imprints. And anytime you're focusing on the future, what's going to trying to focus on the future or figure out the future, either you're going to short circuit yourself and your brain is going to fry, or you're going to stir up a whole lot of anxiety for yourself. And or you're going to overwork because you're going to push to try to figure, to focus on what is going to happen in December or next year. And we just don't know. We just don't know. So not focusing 5 months, 6 months out right now. It's about really being present and I am here now. I am here now. I am here now. That is a mantra, a practice you can take into your practice. I do it every morning. I say to myself before I wake up, I am here now. I am here now. I am here now. And I say that multiple times to myself where I'm kind of in the in-between time. Or if I feel wobbles, I close my eyes, I take a breath, I take a beat, and I say, be here now. Be here now. Be here now. In the present moment, there is security. There is calm. This is why we do our practices, because your mind has to be trained for that. Your body and your heart, all 3 of those centers need training. So why we do, our presencing practices, why we connect, is so that in the moments the wobbles come, you can pull yourself back. So that's an easy thing you can do just in your morning practice before you get out of bed, saying that mantra, I am here now. I am here now, and feeling yourself, mind, body, heart, and spirit. Sometimes I just run through that. Okay, mind, be here now. Heart, I am here now. Body, I am here now. And spirit, I am here now. Remember, it's always all 4 parts. The other part of this is also not getting caught up into the past. So past creates pain. Looking at the past, pain, regret, shame, and blame. And so and those are going to come up right now. They really are. But do not hold on to them. Do not hold on to them. Do not build a camp in them. Get support if you need for them, but don't let your mind start making stories up about it. And watch your mind, watch your heart, watch when you're like, okay, am I out holding on to the past or am I in the future? And one of the things that you can do if you go back to the past that makes you not be able to be here now is this mantra. This is not that. This is not that. I hope you're writing these down. This is not that. Because there's going to be things that come up that look like the past. This is how we break apart patterns and we put new ones into place. And you're going to make a different choice. You're going to come around and you're going to choose from a higher level. You're going to feel the pain in the heart and be like, oh, this is not that. This time I'm stronger. This time I have the support. And if you don't have the support, you're going to ask yourself, what do I need? What do I need? What do I desire? And what do I require? These are kind of the 2 big inquiries that I'm putting forth for all of us. Who do you want to be as we walk through the rest of this year? And what do you need? What do you desire? And what do you require in order to be able to be that person? And really bringing clarity. This is the ritual we just did at Beltane, and it's the inquiries that I'm using with all of my clients right now in councils. So you should write those down. I'll put those in the show notes for sure too. All right. Got it? All right. Be here now, present moment. No one is really seeing 2 months forward. It's all good. Take a breath. All right. Number 2, take space to experiment. So in the old patterns that are not serving us, the imprints, what you don't want to do is try to figure it all out. Try to think that your mind has the answers for how to figure whatever it is that you're wanting to figure out. Whether it's something that's going on in your company, or it's something that's going on in your bank account, or it's something that's going on in your health, or it's something that's going on in whatever part feels like struggle. If you go into the mind only to try and figure it out, what lives there are the fears, the fear of failure, the fear of not having what you need, the fear of the floor dropping out. It also lives somatically in our bodies. And what's really important for us to get is the mind does not have the answer. It doesn't. The neutral mind has the answer, but your negative and positive mind and the human brain doesn't have the answer. The answers are actually in your body. They're in your belly is where they start. They move up into the heart. They come down from the higher mind. And then the mind, the brain, as we think about it, it's a sorter. It actually is a sorter. There is something in yoga science called the neutral mind, which the yogic science teaches if you can access your neutral mind, you will know your truth and clarity in 8 seconds. That's why we also do the practices, you all, especially the alternate nostril breathing. But that's the higher mind. That's not your human mind. That's your higher mind that is connecting the higher mind, the divine mind, the higher intelligence, the quantum field to, that's the we part, to the me in your gut. I don't like to use the word gut, but that belly, that whole neural pathway that scientists are finally like, oh yeah, there's a whole situation going on in there. The Enneagram has taught this forever. And the Enneagram always talks about the three parts of intelligence. And we have head, heart, and body. And so what we want to do, what you want to be aware of, is not letting the mind just run and thinking you can figure it out, because that's not going to work. And it's also not like, oh, if I have a question, I just want the answer. I just want the answer. Those are all signs that you're operating from the shadow frequency. And if you operate from the shadow frequency, what it does is it'll make you dance with the rest of the collective that's also in the shadow frequency. So kind of think about it. If the shadow frequency in the collective is playing a dance that's like, it's like death metal, like whatever. It's like not harmonious music. You do want to shift to a higher frequency and a higher vibrations. That's why these are like dances. So think of a music that you really love, that raises your vibration, that expands you. What kind of music is that? Or who might be an artist or two who has that kind of music? Because you can also use sound. That's a great practice. Sound and literally moving your body to get out of that figure it out, fear of failure, and thinking that there's an answer to fix all of this. Because what we want to do, this taking space to experiment, is we want to give you space to actually be in co-creation. You want to create space these next couple months to play with things, to create, to activate the creative brain, to think differently, to flip things on its head, to invite that creativity in, because creativity is what connects to the imagination that then allows us to see things we just can't even see in our heads right now. And so how could you create a season for yourself? Like, this is what I'm doing, of creativity, of light, of reimagining. So I'm taking between now and August 1st to create a time span that is going to allow me to experiment and play. I have ideas. I have things I know I want to create in the world, but I keep trying to figure it out. Well, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? And then I talk to people. Should I do this? Should I do that? And then I'm still stuck in the freaking mental. I watched Noah doing this with his career. He's like, well, I could do that, but that doesn't work. I don't know. What should I do? And I'm like, man, you just need to move into action. And action can be co-creation, you all. So like, think about this in your own life. Where are you overthinking? Where are you trying to figure it out? And can you create some space, a time span? I'm choosing 3 months. 3 is great. 4 is better. 3 is good. To create a time span and say, I'm going to play with this. I'm going to experiment with this. I'm going to try this and see what happens. Oh, freedom. So pick an area of your life where you want to experiment and then play with it for the next 3 months. Or start with 30 days if you can't do 3 months. But 3 months gives, again, think of the triangle, gets you out of duality, reality. If we can only see about 2 months ahead right now, by creating a 3-month arc, that's going to get you into that creative space. That's going to open up new opportunities to come through. Now, this is all connected to the third dance. So these all dances, notice, they all work together. Be here now. Take space to experiment, play, co-create. The third one is really about being clear at what's at your center. Really being clear is what's at the center of what you're co-creating in your own life, I always say it, for your sacred life, your whole life, and for your sacred work in the world, the work that you're doing in the world that is contributing to the wholeness of this world. And that is everything from how you parent and you mentor, all the way up to how you do creative expression, and also what you do for your livelihood and your vocation. It's all of those things. And if you're not familiar with that around sacred work, and how we kind of look at that, no worries. I'm going to actually be running the Align to Your Design series this summer. More about that. There's a special season coming up, and I will tell you more about that in the next 2 or 3 weeks or so. So stay tuned for that. We have something special that's going to be happening in these next 3 months as we complete season 8. And we're going to do something a little magical and create series 8.5 to really help support us to go through these next 3 months. So stay tuned for more on that. But for now, what this third dance is focus on your part and purpose for this next cycle. And get clear on what to preserve, what to let go, and what you're really focused on creating in the next. So what this means is, again, going back to me and we, is that we are moving into a 20-year cycle at the end of this year. And again, whenever you're listening to this, it's going to be fine because you'll be in the 20-year cycle. And so when you know that that's happening, and then we're in this bigger kind of 100-year cycle that's in a bigger kind of 2,500-year cycle, like all of these cycles that are within cycles, regardless of your age, this happens for all of us. And we're looking forward into these next 20 years now and saying, okay, what is at the center of my life? What is at the center of your life? For me, the center of my life is the longevity of my well-being. And the decisions I make need to support that. So whether that's my relationships, that's my physical health, it's the place I live, all of those need to support the longevity of my well-being. Because in order for me to do my part and my purpose, I require and desire, this is one of the core questions I'm asking each of us inquiries to be with. What do you need, desire, and require to show up and be the leader you're here to be? And again, leader doesn't mean that just because you have lots of people underneath you, it means you're showing up in your life. I mean, it can mean that you do lead and influence an organization or a team, but you're choosing to be a leader as a citizen on this planet. And that who do you want to be within that? What do you need and desire and require? And for me, I desire longevity of well-being. If I'm going to stay on this planet and do my part and my purpose and play it out and give my gifts in all the ways that I desire to and can, I need to be the longevity of my well-being. And that well-being isn't just my physical body, although it is the physical body too. It's mind, body, heart, and spirit. So one of my requires is I spend meaningful time with people I adore and places I love to explore. And so that's one of the things that goes with the longevity of my well-being, which is why I decided to go do the in-person training for the Enneagram, for the team stuff in Seattle, to go spend time with other people who love the Enneagram. And I got to stay with my friend Molly at her house, which was so beautiful. And she let me drive her car and stay at her house, so I didn't have to stay in a hotel. I love staying with people that are conscious humans who I adore. And we got to go explore. I got to learn more about what it's like to grow up in Seattle. And it was really lovely. And I got to have lunch with my friend Suzanne and my friend Catherine. And it was just, and my friend Maria. It was full of that meaningfulness that contributes to the longevity of my well-being. Now, I could have all kinds of money reasons why, I shouldn't go because it's going to cost, $1,000 to fly to Seattle, and then this and then that. And it's no, this is supporting the longevity of my well-being. So it's a decision tool I have because I've taken myself through what I call the Align to My Design process. I know what's at the center of of that, my life. But I also know it's at the center of my work. What's my part to play now? And the for me to play at this time is to train and guide and support the emerging and established leaders who are here to guide and influence the now and next era, and to keep the hearts of the humans harmonized. That's my part. And so I can look at some things in my life. So let go, like what am I letting go? And so I have let go of certain things. I'm not going to go into all of them right now. I'll talk about these later, that I'm just no longer doing. I mean, one of the things I let go is of having to be on social media and like playing that game of like constantly producing stuff that goes on to the Instagram and the Facebook, because I have other uses for that life force. And we post my podcast up there and other things happen so people can, come and connect to us. But I'm not putting my life force over there because that doesn't support me to actually do this thing that that's at the center of my work. So I've like let the need to be this public persona go. And that was, a challenge for me and I really made that decision last year. And it was challenging because I had to look at my own ways in which my ego or success and security had come from that in the past. And the truth is, I don't care how many followers I have. What I care is that the people that I work with are open and ready for the wisdom and want to integrate it and they want to elevate, so then they can take it and influence the people that they're here to touch. That's going to make a much bigger ripple onto this planet than for me figuring out how do I get more followers on social media. And so, my hand's on my heart right now, and I'm sharing that with you, not to put a judgment on anyone who's doing anything out there, because I'm aligned to my design. And so part of me coming to that was also the challenge of like true deep self-acceptance of like, this is actually my design for this next cycle. And when I was able to really see that this last career path, which really initiated in 2008, which was the last time Pluto moved a planet. So we're kind of ending the cycle from 2008 to now. That was my career path. And it was a different part of the path, and it had a different purpose, and it supported a different part of my sacred life as well. And now it's just time for the next part of my path. This is the great thing about really looking at your career and your life as these segments of the paths that we're on. And so for you, kind of thinking about this too, okay, like what Christine is saying is like, there are things that you might have done. There are ways that you might have engaged in the world. There are ways that you might have made priorities and decisions based on your part and your purpose, both in the life you're leading and the way that you're leading and giving your gifts in the world, that it's time for a shift. And so looking forward into these next 20 years, no, we can't see even past the next 2 months. So you're like, Christine, what do you mean? The next 20 years? What I mean is for right now, be here now, give yourself space to experiment and be in this inquiry. What should I preserve? What's wanting to be preserved? What's time to let go? And what am I really creating in the next? And so then you don't have to do the distorted patterns, which for some people, they just burn it all up. They just burn it all up and let it all go. It's like the phoenix who just burns down her nest. This is not the time for burning down nests. There are good things to preserve in there. You want to know what those are. But also some of us we hold on to things. We don't want to let it go. We're hoarders in different ways. It doesn't have to be physical hoarding. It can be emotional hoarding or experience hoarding or just holding on. There's a great parable that talks about this man who needed to get from one side of the river to the other. And so he built a raft, and the raft got him across the river. He gets to the other side of the river, and he's not sure what to do with the raft, but he doesn't want to let it go. And so this teacher, the sage, comes by and says, well, just, let it go. It got you where you needed to be, and you don't need it anymore. He's like, but I might need it again sometime, And so he doesn't take the sage's counsel to leave it. Maybe someone else will come by and pick it up, or maybe it'll just compost and go back into the ground. he just carries it with him for miles and miles and miles, and it's heavy and it drags him down and it slows him down and it creates struggle for him. Don't do that. Do not do that. Please do not do that. That will keep you operating from the lower shadow frequency and from the wound. So what are you really being called to let go? And think of it in this area. It'll show up in an area of your life. And doing that in a way that's what you've been doing was great. Nothing wrong with it. No need to regret it. No need to feel shame about it. It's just what the cycle was. And then turn around and look forward and feel in your body, feel in your center. Like if you take your fingers and you put them right above your navel, seat of your soul, they say, lives in your body here. And it's also where your body wisdom is and your instincts are. Deep-rooted knowing. What is your part and purpose in this next cycle for you? In both what you want to give to the world and the people and the causes and the things that really matter to you. And also in your own sacred life and what you want to experience and what you want your reality, you desire your reality to be. And if you don't know the answers to those, that's okay. Because you actually have to just start with the inquiry. And that's why Feminine Power Time is here. That's why I'll do the power pause. Again, it's a good bite-sized piece of that. For those that want to go deeper, I always offer the Align to Your Design consultations and coaching. I'll rerun the Align to Your Design series this year during this season. And there's lots of different ways to get this support. So however you find that, be in relationship with this. Don't be a windsock. Just without a pole, blowing around. Put your stake in the ground and say, okay, I'm going to really tune in to what my design is moving forward. And don't be the guy that carries the raft and holds on to it. And also, love, do not be a phoenix and burn it all down. I mean, be a phoenix. Phoenixes are great. It's not time to burn down the nest, though. There are good things in there. But you got to tune in to listen. So our ending inquiries, in addition to your dance card, so your dance card, be here now, stay in the present, call yourself home, morning and night. I am here now, and this is not that. 2, second dance, take space to experiment. Create your arc. What is it? I'm going to do 3 months, and if you're on my list, my wisdom letter list, I'll also kind of signal this too in the next couple of weeks. So do make sure that you're on that and you can subscribe through that on my website or on the show notes. But just take this space to experiment and create an arc. I say 3 months where you can play and be in co-creation and see what wants to show itself to you. Don't try to figure it out with your head. 3, focus on your part and purpose for this next cycle and get clear on what to preserve, what to let go, and what you're really excited for and feel good about and loving creating now into the next. Just take a breath, and I'll give you these 2 inquiries from my heart to yours. As we go through this time and the rest of this year, maybe even in the years to come, but we'll just start with the rest of this year. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be as you walk through this? And what matters to? What matters to me? What matters to you? Really tuning into that. Who do I want to be? And what matters to me? And then from there, the 3rd inquiry. Based on that, who do you want to be and what matters to you? In this next cycle, what do I desire and require? What do I desire and require? And I would write those down and I would journal on them. I would create some space in the mornings and evenings in your practice. I just did the desires and requires. It was so great to write them all down. And Sometimes you need something else to do than watch Netflix. Now you'll have something else to do. So write those inquiries into a journal page that's empty. And then in your morning or afternoon practices or evening practices, see what comes out. And I'll be back again soon so we can complete in a good way season 8. And I will come back also with some insight onto what this mysterious season 8.5 is going to be and how I myself am working these same principles that I'm sharing with you. So wherever this finds you today, remember, share this episode, forward it to another person, to a friend, compare notes on these things, know these practices, support each other on them, do the inquiries together, do them on yourself first, and then share them with each other. Be a leader in connection. And I appreciate you sharing, and that's how we end up elevating this world. So I hope to see you again soon here if I'm in Power Time, also for the Flow Power Pause, and wherever it is that we get to gather soon. All right, sending you off with much love. And remember, you are not alone. There are many beings who are here to bring more light and more love into the world, not in some hooty-dooty way, but in a real grounded, practical, powerful, potent way every day through our voices and our choices. As the world shifts, we rise. Much love, everyone.